Thank you for joining the three-part webinar series on CIS Controls Masterclass. Today, the second part of the webinar, we are going to discuss on Implementation Group 2. Implementation Group 2 is comprised of 74 additional safeguards that is built upon the 56 safeguards identified in Implementation Group 1. The 74 safeguards selected for Implementation Group 2 can help security teams cope with increased operational complexity. Some safeguards will depend on enterprise-grade technology and specialized expertise to install properly and configure. NIG2 Enterprise employs individuals who are responsible for managing and protecting IT infrastructure. These enterprises typically support multiple departments with differing risk profiles based on job functions and missions. Small enterprise units may have regulatory compliance burdens. Implementation Group 2 enterprises often store and process sensitive client or enterprise information and can withstand short interruption of services. A major concern is the loss of public confidence if at all a breach occurs. Let's dive into today's session, Implementation Group 2, starting with Security Function Detect. Utilize an active discovery tool. Subcontrol section 1.3 talks about utilizing active discovery tool that has to be executed daily or more frequently. ManageEngine oputils periodically scans the routers, switches, and gateway servers to discover the devices in the infrastructure. This includes all the devices in the network, irrespective of whether the device is a rogue or not. The IP address management tool helps in scanning of the network on a scheduled basis. The administrator can also choose the scanning options like pinging the devices in an IP range or in a subnet, SNMP sweep, DNS, etc. IP Manager software provides the complete details of an IP address like DNS name, MAC address, state, system name, device type, switch name, port, alias, owners, etc. And also provides history of the complete IP address allocations. IP address tools tree node to represent the location or the usage and subnets under them. This way, IPAM software helps the administrator to easily locate a subnet in order to get the required details. All the discovered devices are listed under the Discovery tab in the Rogue Detection tool. The administrator has to verify the device list and mark them accordingly. He can mark the devices, systems as trusted. He can mark the devices as guest to allow access for a specific period of time. Let's say you have a contractor or a temporary worker who needs access to the network. As an administrator, you can allow the device to be connected to a network for a specific period of time. As an administrator, you can also mark the device as rogue and you can take appropriate actions. The action could be to get the details of the switch and port through which the device is accessing the network and block the switch port to stop unauthorized access, or even configuring email alerts for instant notification. And the next control, utilize automated software inventory tools. In our last webinar, we discussed about the same set of softwares, Asset Explorer, Service Desk Plus, and Desktop Central. Asset Explorer can help you identify and manage assets in your network. We can scan your infrastructure and can bring in complete inventory data. Now, if you would like to have ITIL functions along with asset management, then we are looking at the Service Test Plus product, which does include ITIL functions like incident management, service catalog, problem management, change management, release management, CMDB. Or if you are looking at patching your infrastructure along with inventory, we can move on to the Desktop Central product. Now, this is for specific operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, and also mobile devices like iOS, Android, Windows, and Chromebooks. In all these three platforms, you can do a scheduled periodic scan, so the inventory of your infrastructure will be up to date. You can do an inventory, you can do manage license in these three products: Asset Explorer, Service Test Plus, and Desktop Central. And the next set of functions talks about collecting audit logs, detailed audit logs, centralized audit logs, and collect audit log reviews. When we say detailed audit logs, it has to contain event source, date, timestamp, username, source address, destination address, and others. The same can be achieved by Log 360. Centralized audit logs. Log 360 is a one-stop solution for all your log management and network security challenges. This tightly integrated solution combines the capabilities of AD Audit Plus, complete security logs audit on your Windows infrastructure, Event Log Analyzer, syslogs, SNMP traps from your network devices, Office 365 Manager Plus, Exchange Reporting, and Cloud Security Plus. With a versatile combination like this, you will gain complete control over the network. You'll be able to audit Active Directory changes, Microsoft Exchange servers, Exchange Online, Azure Active Directory, and even your public cloud infrastructure, all from a single console. Audit log reviews. Log 360 UEBA, one of the best ways to defend against both internal and external attacks, is to use user and entity behavioral analysis to continuously monitor users and device activity. UEBA learns each users and create a baseline of regular activities for each users and entities. Any changes that deviates from the baseline gets flagged as an anomaly. The IT administrator can then investigate the issue and take the necessary steps to mitigate the risk. Powered by machine learning, user entity behavioral analysis solution grows more effective the more experience it gains. Log 360 UEBA analyze logs from different sources of your infrastructure, including firewalls, routers, workstations, databases, and file servers. Any deviation from normal behavior is classified as a time, count, or a pattern anomaly. It then gives actionable insight to the IT administrator with the use of risk scores, anomaly trends, and intuitive reports. When I say time-based anomaly, let's say a user logs in by 9 a.m. usually and then logs out by 6 p.m. If the user immediately or suddenly logs in by 9 or 11 p.m. in the evening, then it is an anomaly that the Log 360 UEBA add-on will flag and will alert the administrator. Or count-based or pattern-based. When a user accesses a file server once or twice a month, once or twice a week, but then all of a sudden he's accessing more than 10 times, 5 times a day within a specific period of time or on a short notice. This is an anomaly that the product will identify, it will flag, and it will alert the administrator. The administrator can then investigate and mitigate the risk that is involved in this scenario. Collect DNS query audit logs. DNS servers are crucial for the operation of any network. DNS records allows DNS servers to map requests to the corresponding IP addresses. Modification or deletion of DNS records can result in service unavailability. Hence, it is crucial to monitor DNS modification to accelerate forensic analysis in case of a mishap. Highlighted reports here are domain DNS changes, DNS nodes added, removed, zones and permission changes or modified can be added as a report, and you can access them within the AD Audit Plus product. Collecting URL requests audit logs. Now this can be tricky and more resource consuming. The reason why I say is because if we start monitoring each and every endpoint to know the URLs that it is accessing, it will create more resource burden on your infrastructure. Rather, we can go the other route by monitoring the firewall logs. Firewall Analyzer of ManageEngine provides network administrators top URLs as part of the web usage reports. Firewall Analyzers measures network bandwidth usage based on the URLs visited through each network firewalls. Firewall Analyzer provides reports based on URL categories for each firewall. You can get the reports under the major categories allowed and denied URLs. Further, under the major categories, you can also drill down. You can get it categorized based on URLs like social networking, live streaming. You can drill down the reports to top accessed URLs, top source, and top destination. Even with the number of hits to the URL can be identified in these reports. Moving on to the next set of security functions, detect. Configure automatic malware scanning of removable media. Now with the help of Device Control Plus, you can block all portable devices and allow only enterprise devices to get connected in your infrastructure. Device control is the practice of preventing various USB and peripheral devices from gaining unauthorized access to your infrastructure or to the data. By assigning strict device policies using a Device Control Plus solution, you can instantly identify the devices connected to your endpoints, who is using what, on which computer, what data is going out or coming in, and more. With Device Control Plus, the majority of users can be given just read-only access, while higher privileges such as file creation in devices can be granted temporarily on an ad hoc basis. As for the policies with a higher level of access, they can be granted to very few highly trusted users, such as administrators or even leadership staff. By granting permissions based on the reputation and tasks of the users, insider attacks due to privileged escalation scenarios can be deftly avoided. Now, centralized security event alerting. We talked about a couple of slides back, Log 360, right? AD Audit Plus, a module inside Log 360 that deals only with the security events of your Windows infrastructure. The security log contains records of security related events specified by the system's audit policy. Administrators can detect and track attempted and successful unauthorized activity to troubleshoot problems. Examples of security events includes authentication events, audit events, unauthorized events, and these events are stored in operating systems security logs. Moving on to the next security function, host-based network intrusion detection solution. Intrusion detection systems and prevention systems are among the most sophisticated network security devices in use today. They inspect network packets and block suspicious ones, as well as alert administrators about attack attempts. These system logs contains valuable network threat information about attack types, devices that are being targeted, and more. We have seen multiple ManageEngine products helping us to prevent detection and intrusion in the network. With the help of Device Control Plus, you can prevent unauthorized removable devices from getting connected to the network. With the help of OpUtils, you can prevent unauthorized devices getting connected to the network. You can mark them as rogue or trusted. You can block switch ports when you find it is not a corporate device that should not be connected to the enterprise network. With Data Security Plus, you can detect and prevent data leak through USBs and emails from your Outlook client. If you have a network device to do IDS and IPS, Event Log Analyzer can monitor these logs and extract the information they provide to further secure your network. Event Log Analyzer provides out-of-the-box support for multiple IDS IPS vendors: Cisco, Juniper, SonicWall, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint, Sophos, and more. Event Log Analyzer makes network device monitoring simple. Once configured, Event Log Analyzer automatically collects IPS, IDS logs from these devices and stores them in a central location. Predefined reports covers various aspects of your network and can help you gain perspective on your network's overall security standards. Instant alerts ensure you are the first to know when something suspicious is detected. For instance, malicious traffic alerts lets you know when intruders try to attack your network. Event Log Analyzer also allows you to search the collected logs using several powerful search options and securely stores logs for as long as you need them. ManageEngine doesn't offer devices, but IDS IPS reporting is available in Event Log Analyzer. Event Log Analyzer generates security reports that provides information on attacks occurring in your network with information on the most frequent attack and the source of these attacks, the most targeted devices on your network, attack trends. These reports help you understand what types of attack your network is susceptible to, which network devices need to be secured further, how to decide when malicious traffic sources to target, and more. Event Log Analyzer is already available as part of the Log360 console. Collecting network traffic flows in your infrastructure. Here, CIS speaks on collecting flows or network traffic to review and alert from the networking devices. Netflow Analyzer, a complete traffic analytics tool that leverages most of the major flow technologies to provide real-time visibility into the network bandwidth performance. It is a unified solution that collects, analyzes, and report what's on your network bandwidth and what it is being used for, by whom, what is the source, destination, and the protocol used. Netflow Analyzer is part of the Op Manager solution. Let's dive into the next security function, identify. Use of dynamic host configuration protocol. This has to be used to log up-to-date enterprise asset inventory. Now, we discussed about OpUtils. This have DHCP server monitoring, which supports a full range of DHCP servers that enables you to discover and monitor with ease. With server appropriate discovery options, you can discover the supported DHCP servers and automate the scanning process by setting periodic scan schedules. Oputel's DHCP server monitoring supports most common used DHCP servers like Microsoft DHCP or Palo Alto, Linux ISC, Cisco, or Fortinet. Oputel's DHCP monitoring tool integrates IP address management, switch port mapping functionality, and DHCP management all from one single console that enables you to discover and monitor what is being connected to your network without any, with ease. You can know what is getting connected to your network. Establish the next security function is to maintain an inventory of service accounts. Now, PAM360 can auto-discover all your service accounts and can help you to manage them. When discovering Windows accounts, PAM360 will automatically fetch the service accounts associated with services present in the domain member servers. Initially, PAM360 will create a Windows domain resource with the domain name. For example, if your domain name is ManageEngine, then the resource name, the domain controller, will be created like ManageEngine-domain controller. Then PAM360 will try to fetch all the available Windows member servers that are under the specified organizational units or groups. After importing these resources, which is the member servers under the specified OUs, the corresponding local accounts associated with these resources will also be fetched, and that is what you see in the screen. Finally, these service accounts will be mapped to the resource groups that contains these resources where these service accounts are used. The resource group will be created in the form domain name ManageEngine member server group. For example, if the domain name here is ManageEngine, the resource group name will be ManageEngine member server group. If the resource group is already present, you have already created it, then the resources will be added to the resources group. Perform automated vulnerability scan on both internal and external assets. We have already discussed about this topic in implementation group 1. Vulnerability Manager Plus, which is an agent-based software that can scan devices that are present in the network, especially endpoints, for software vulnerability, zero-day vulnerability, system misconfiguration, high-risk software, web server misconfiguration. So we just not stop with endpoints, but we also support web servers like Apache or Tomcat or IIS, database servers like Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, SQL, MongoDB, Firebird, and so on. This is an add-on to the Desktop Central product. Note, we are not SCAP compliant vulnerability scanning tool, but then this can help you to an extent to scan and automate the vulnerability scanning of your infrastructure. Establishing and maintaining architectural diagrams. This can be achieved manually or through automated scan. So here we'll be discussing about 3 products: Asset Explorer, Op Manager, and Applications Manager. Asset Explorer's configuration management database is a uniquely designed tool, a relationship map, to provide the ability to understand the dependencies between the CIs. The configuration items can either be a physical or a virtual entity. When I say physical entity, it can be servers, routers, switches. When I say virtual entity, it can be departments or business services. The relationship map helps you to analyze the impact caused by this CI on a business service and to identify the root cause of the impact, thus establishing appropriate measures to gradually eliminate the perpetual issues faced by your organization. Now in this relationship map, you see there is a sales service, let's say it's a CRM, and it's hosted on an IDC Linux server that runs a CRM application that is dependent on the Microsoft SQL database and IIS servers. And the SQL is running on DB Server 1, and it is a member of an MS SQL cluster. And at an event that you want to notify or you want to ask further questions about this particular service, it is managed by John, and you can contact him to further investigate about the root cause or inform that there is a failure on this relationship. And the next option is an automatic discovery. Op Manager allows you to discover layer 2 devices that are connected to your network and draws a visual representation of the same. This includes a detailed map of all the nodes, interconnected layers, and port-to-port connectivity in addition to the interfaces. Op Manager supports multiple discovery protocols that is implemented in your seeded router or an L3 switch. This will drastically reduce the time taken to discover the devices. As changes happen to the network frequently, Op Manager allows you to configure an interval to redraw the map. You can schedule the discovery process. So if the changes happens once a week, you can configure Op Manager to redraw the map every 7 days. And you can also export this map through a business view, a logical representation of devices that you are monitoring in the Op Manager product. Applications Manager ADDM. Application Discovery and Dependency Mapping is a management solution which discovers various applications running on various servers and network devices within the infrastructure and maps the dependencies between them. It aids in discovering, mapping, and building a holistic view of all the resources running in a business infrastructure and the relationship between them. With ManageEngine Applications Manager ADDM, you can get a complete view of your complex IT infrastructure, easily drill down to IT relationship and map them effortlessly. Moving on to the next set of security functions. The first two, allow list authorized softwares and libraries. With Application Control Plus, you can whitelist applications. First, you need to discover softwares that are already present on the infrastructure, and you can group them. Grouping softwares can be done via trusted vendors, example Microsoft, or product name. If you want to whitelist certain products from the same vendor, this type of policy can be opted for instead of trusted vendors rule. Verified executables. Applications are made of multiple executable files, with vendors assigning a digital certificate to each executable to vouch for its authenticity. Op Manager Control Plus displays these verified executable files to you, from which you can select the exe from which the exes can be whitelisted, and the file hash. This is the most secure policy as it's based on the hash value of the executable file. All executable files of the running processes, including those that don't have a valid digital certificate, will be displayed to you. You can choose all the files that you wish to whitelist. After that, even the smallest change to the file, such as a revision of the file's version, will change its hash value, meaning the file will be removed instantly from the whitelisted applications. This policy is perfect if you want to run only extremely specific executables. And finally, folder path exclusion. The policy makes whitelisting very simple for administrators. You can put all the applications that you trust into a folder to whitelist those apps in one go. Grouping applications and users. While you create a policy with the allow list application, you can simply create that or associate that with the user groups. When you assign whitelist application group, you need not specify the user. Instead, you can specify the user group based on department or similar job title. This will eliminate most of your management process as an administrator. Instead of individually assigning it to a user, if you assign it to a group, it will be easy for an administrator to manage. So when you remove the user from the group, or when you remove the software, executable, or a product or a vendor from the group, it gets removed to all the user groups in the infrastructure. And the next security function, encrypt data on removable media. ManageEngine would not be able to encrypt data on removable devices, but can allow only BitLocker encrypted USB devices can be accessed in the organizational infrastructure in order to view information or perform specific file actions. So you can assure that only trusted devices and with BitLocker encrypted devices are getting connected to your infrastructure. Uninstall or disable unnecessary services on enterprise assets and softwares. Prohibited software management in Desktop Central can help you perform this operation. From Desktop Central, you can do inventory. You can add the list of software that has to be prohibited in the company. And during regular scan cycles, it will go and see what softwares you have listed in your prohibited softwares, and if that is listed in your infrastructure, if that's been discovered in your infrastructure. You can also have an option so that the user will be notified with an alert message during logon that you have a prohibited software installed on your computer. Say on a case, a user is using it for temporary use or testing it for an enterprise application. You can also configure a wait window for the software and installation. So once the timer is ended, the software will be automatically uninstalled from your infrastructure. Disabling unnecessary services. Through a configuration of Desktop Central, you can easily see the list of services that are running on your infrastructure on each and every machine. You can go about creating a configuration to start, stop, restart the configuration, or set up a startup type during logon, or a delay start, or do not start the service during logon. You can specify them, and you can manage those services globally from the Desktop Central configuration section. Enforce, and the next set of security functions, protects. Enforce remote wipe or remote portable devices wipe. Desktop Central solution comes with mobile device management add-on, or mobile device manager is also available as a standalone product, with which you can perform remote wipe functionalities on your Windows laptops, desktops, and tablets. We also support Windows, Android, and iOS devices. You can also enable lost mode or a remote alarm so that you'll be able to identify the device, or if the device is lost and it cannot be recovered, you can do a corporate wipe the configuration that you have pushed from the mobile device management section, you can very well do a complete wipe as well. The next set of security function, centralized account management and access control. With the proliferation of privileged accounts in enterprise, the number of passwords that must be protected has also grown substantially. Tracking all these passwords is a daunting task, and eventually people write them down or store them on spreadsheet and other electronic platforms. However, such practices are dangerous and may lead to unauthorized user gaining access to these passwords. Moreover, when remote teams maintain such localized password database, there will be increased instances of outdated passwords and coordination issues impacting operational efficiency. To avoid mismanagement on sensitive passwords, you need to inventory the passwords belonging to all your department under a centralized repository and administer direct control over them. PAM360 serves as a centralized password vault and helps consolidate account credentials in one single place by directly adding or importing from CSV, also an automated scanning process. Apart from that, it can also offer centralized management, defense against intrusion, and fine-grained permission levels. Passwords are encrypted with AES 256 algorithm, the strongest known encryption that the US government has approved. Data is duly encrypted, once at the application level and the next at the database level. One more product I would like to discuss here on access control is the AD Self-Service Plus. AD Self-Service Plus single sign-on eliminates the need for multiple user IDs and passwords, streamline login experience of users, and improves security. It uses Active Directory credentials to verify users, identities, and OU and group-based policies to control access to various cloud applications. Users have to remember only their Windows username and password to access all their enterprise applications. AD Self-Service Plus uses the secure and widely adopted industry standard security assertion markup language SAML2 to provide single sign-on. It also supports multi-factor authentication during logon to ensure additional security. Retain audit logs. Now we discussed about this in our previous webinar, implementation group 1. So retaining audit logs, how long you want to keep the audit logs, whether the hard disk is supporting it, you have efficient disk space to collect these logs and store that in your infrastructure, or all have to be managed. Again, this is a business process that we discussed already in IG1, and that's what is repeated here. Maintain and enforce network-based URL filters, restrict unnecessary or unauthorized browsers and extensions. Browser Security Plus is a way for IT admins to restrict access to websites and web applications. Browsers have become a tool that employees use on a daily basis, thanks to more and more organizations adopting a cloud-first approach. Browsers are now a conduit to not only the cloud, but also to the malware and distractions present on the web. In order to ensure that these browsers are not exploited by cyber criminals to target organizations, web filters becomes necessary layer of security. When implemented right, a web filtering software can effectively weed out any malicious content and ensure that users can access only authorized or trusted websites. IT admins can deny access to websites that are not needed for the organization, This prevents users from visiting websites that aren't trusted, authorized in the organization. IT admins can define groups for sites using categories like social media, video streaming, productivity, business. Groups like social media and video streaming can be blocked to ensure that users' productivity doesn't log. Each internet browser has a unique add-on ecosystem. Internet Explorer uses plugins, browser helper objects, and accelerators. Google Chrome, on the other hand, has extensions, themes, and apps. And Firefox is all about extensions. These unique add-on ecosystems have been evolving for some time, up until the point where it's now almost impossible for IT administrators to keep track of various add-ons deployed on each user's computers. Browser Security Plus makes the impossible possible with its add-on management feature. Chrome, Edge, Firefox extensions, and Internet Explorer plugins can be managed using add-on management. Chrome and Edge extensions and Firefox add-ons can be distributed to computers using extension repository, and you can also disable extensions. Certain websites install plugins without visitors' knowledge. This is one of the most common ways unwanted plugins land on computers. These kind of plugins need to be blacklisted once they are detected. Many employees also access corporate resources while signed into their personal browsers, bringing their extensions with them. This is more dangerous. That means these extensions can access enterprise sites, which is likely to lead to corporate data loss. The best way to deal with any type of unwanted extension is to disable Chrome extensions with Browser Security Plus and only grant access to IT approved extensions. Implement DMOC. Now, mail service providers, vendors have support for SPF, DKIM, and BMARC. Just with few configurations, you can enable them in your organizations. Talking about SPF, Sender's Policy Framework, is a type of DNS record published in the domain's DNS that identifies the mail servers that are permitted to send emails using the particular domain name. The main purpose of SPF records is to help the recipient email server identify the spam emails sent using your domain name by spoofing or forging the from email address from external mail servers. Now, DKIM is an authentication method which uses encryption with public-private keys to validate whether the emails are generated from the authorized servers, recognized and configured by the administrators of the sending domains. DMOC, which stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting and Conformance, is an email authentication protocol. It builds on the widely deployed SPF and DKIM protocols. Also adds a reporting function that allows senders and receivers to improve and monitor protection of the domain from fraudulent emails. Action that is to be performed when an email doesn't pass SPF and DKIM. Moving on to the next set of security function, protect. Block unnecessary file types. This CIS control speaks on enterprise email gateway, blocking all files that is not text, PDF, or JPEG, and known extensions which will not harm the environment. This is the continuation of the previous subcontrol. When we block malicious emails and domains, most of the vulnerable attachments will be handled already. Enable anti-exploitation features. provides protection against exploits in a broad generic manner. This is in contrast to antivirus or signature based detection, which looks for known bad piece of code or malicious files. Many anti-exploitation features are built into modern operating systems, and that just have to be simply enabled. Establish and maintain a secure network infrastructure. Control 12.2 speaks about segmentation, least privilege, and availability at a minimum. Segmentation in terms of production, non-production, and testing environments. Least privilege can be achieved using PAM360 solution that we have already discussed about. So when a user requesting for access to the resource, it sends an email or an alert notification to the password administrator, where you can see on the screen the password access request will be sent. The administrator will then either approve or reject the request now or at a later point of time. The administrator can also audit not just the information, the recorded sessions after the session, but they can audit at the time of the session as well. And if the administrator is not happy with the way the user is performing operations on the remote asset or the resource, he can terminate the session there and then, not allowing the user to perform any and every operation on an enterprise resource. Finally, perform the next set of subcontrols here. Perform traffic filtering between network segments. Usually, traffic between production and non-production network is not allowed. If there is a business requirement and need an exclusion, we have to document and make sure it remains secure. Any traffic between the network has to be monitored and has to be reported. The site-to-site traffic monitoring option in IP groups of Netflow Analyzer lets you monitor traffic between two specific sites, which are created based on IP address or IP network. This feature helps you understand the network traffic behavior between any two user-defined sites. You can get or know about the in and out traffic, which application is consuming the traffic, source, destination, conversation, in and out. This feature will be helpful in identifying the traffic between two networks. You can either block the traffic or document on the exception on why you need the traffic to flow. The next security function, manage access control for remote assets. So we talked about the product PAM360 that has the ability to provide minimum access permissions for the assets or the user who is remotely connecting to the enterprise resource. This can be achieved by PAM360. We just discussed about that a couple of slides back. Making sure you have an operating system up to date, system versions and applications. This can be achieved using Desktop Central, patch management software deployment feature, and Windows configurations. So here on access control for remote assets, if the user wants to access a Windows machine or a Linux box or a Mac device, you can make use of the remote control function in the Desktop Central server for technicians access. Establish and maintain a process to accept and address software vulnerabilities. CIS suggests that an enterprise have to use a vulnerability tracking system, which should include severity rating, timing of identification, analysis, and remediation of vulnerabilities. So we have already discussed about this product, Vulnerability Manager Plus. You can scan systems for vulnerabilities and provide information on the severity. On terms of remediation, it can identify the patches available for the vulnerability from the vendor, and you can patch the systems using the same solution. This is also part of Desktop Central. The next set of security functions in Protect, especially CIS Controls 16, talks about security on in-house developed applications, scanning them for vulnerabilities and remediation factors. This is not included in the webinar. This will be more of an organizational to organizational procedures. This will be more of a business process. So let's move on to the next security function, recover. Test data recovery, conduct routine incident response exercises, and conduct post-incident reviews. First things first, backing up the data. That's the first step towards recovering the data. And the next one is to recover the data in an event of an emergency. Looking at these procedures, backing up the data and then restoring it at the time of need. So this looks straightforward, right? But looking at the aesthetics, it becomes complex. Let me tell you why. First, we need to make sure what data has to be backed up. Users' workstation, physical servers, virtual servers, application servers, databases, business critical servers like domain controllers and Exchange, network configurations, and the list goes on. So having an inventory of the critical data in the network is crucial, which has to be backed up based on the criticality of the data has to be determined. Now let's talk about restoration. When you do a restore process, what if the data is corrupted? What if you are unable to perform the operation? So the whole point in taking a backup and not ensuring that the device or the backup is legitimate and you can apply them when needed, and if it is not working, and the whole process goes in vain. So we'll have to perform simulated restoration of data, which is more crucial in this process. You should use commonly occurring real-life data disaster scenarios to simulate what your backups will and won't do in a crisis. These scenarios include a single file or a huge chunk of data, partial data, full data, multiple data. You can test backups and restores against any of these scenarios. Either use a manual or an automated process. Wherein the manual process testing requires more than one or two technicians to execute the restore process on sample data to confirm restore success, while the automated test uses scheduled tasks and scripts on the sample data. Let's move on to the next security function, respond. Enforce automatic device lockout or portable end user devices. This can be achieved using Desktop Central Windows configuration by applying policies on mobile devices. In mobile devices, when the policy is applied, you have two options just to give you how detailed we manage: auto lock and password lock. Idle timeout before device locks specifies the time allowed for the device before the screen turns off. This is similar to the setting that can be configured in auto lock feature. Grace period for device lock refers to allowed time for the user before prompting a passcode. So you have an auto lock where the screen turns off and it can be waked up and there is no passcode required. And the next one is the passcode lock, wherein the display turns off. Immediately a passcode is required to unlock the devices, either of which can be achieved using the mobile device management section of the desktop central product. Remediate detected vulnerabilities. We discussed about this in the vulnerability manager plus product. Establish and maintain an incident response process, identifying key roles and responsibilities, which would all be a business process that you would like to that you would have to implement in the organization. So with this, we complete the implementation group 2 webinar on CIS masterclass. Thank you very much for your participation in this webinar. It is said that experience is the best teacher. However, this experience doesn't necessarily have to undergone personally, but can be learned through others as well. I consider this session is a session like that. Hope it was useful in learning about CIS Control Implementation Group 2 and how you can utilize ManageEngine tools to be in compliance. I recommend you to download our 30-day trial of ManageEngine product to experience yourself. If you think your organization could use an expert consultation, you can also reach out to us with your questions to me-consultant@manageengine.com and we'll get in touch with you. Thank you again for your patience during the session. Next Tuesday, August 17th, we can meet again to discuss implementation group 3. Have a great day. Bye-bye.